So there was some questions, and I guess Candace Parker's not allowed to bring it up. She's got a women's basketball podcast, but can't bring up the goings-on in women's basketball. I find that rather interesting. And I'm talking about the fact that people are doing the "why you bringing up Angel" shit. Well, I mean, again, women's basketball podcast, and something happened that's not CBA related. Christ.
That drum roll, that awkward pause. That's not excitement you're hearing in Candace Parker's voice. That's barely concealed skepticism. And when a 3-time WNBA champion and Hall of Famer starts questioning the rules of a league she's invested in, you know something shady just went down. Because what just happened with Angel Reese and Unrivaled isn't just unusual. It's a complete abandonment of the league's own rulebook. And the question everyone's asking is simple: what rules?
Perhaps the most notable, heading into Unrivaled's second season, there was a lot of chatter about many big names that weren't competing. Basically, no big names. Stop it with the Paige Becker stuff. Perhaps the most notable were Caitlin Clark and A'ja Wilson, who were among the 2 best and most popular players in the world right now. However, given that Clark and Wilson didn't compete in Unrivaled last year, their decision to not play this year didn't come as a huge surprise.
Watch Aaliyah Boston's reaction there. She's trying to be diplomatic, but you can see it in her face. Even she thinks this looks suspicious, and she should know. Boston's actually playing in Unrivaled this season. She's watching trades happen, seeing the developmental pool in action, understanding how the system is supposed to work. So when Candace brings up the obvious question about where Angel Reese came from, Aaliyah can't even defend it, because there is no defense. The Rose traded away multiple players, got nothing back in return, and then somehow Angel Reese just appears, not from the developmental pool, not through any established mechanism. She just shows up.
But then, drum roll please, which has already been announced, but was that?
Oh,
you
that
did
was
a
me.
drum. Okay,
Yes.
You did a drum roll.
You didn't like it?
I did. Thought it was great. Didn't really know quite what it was, but it sounded great. Then it was announced that Angel Reese is coming back to the Rose. She was the rebounding leader last year and Defensive Player of the Year from the inaugural season. And I do think that she's going to give the Rose a boost, but it begs the question of, like, what's the developmental pool?
Literally?
If you're just like, we're going to go outside, which I think it was a great pickup if you could do it.
Here's what makes this particularly problematic. Unrivaled created a developmental pool for exactly this situation. When teams need players due to trades or injuries, they're supposed to pull from a pre-existing roster of available athletes. Players like Michaela Thompson, one of the most athletic players in WNBA history, who's sitting in that pool right now waiting for an opportunity. Hailey Van Lith is in there. Multiple talented players ready to step in. But instead of using the system they created, Unrivaled just went outside and grabbed Angel Reese. And look, I get why they did it. The ratings are abysmal. Twitter engagement is non-existent. They're desperate for any pulse of relevance. But desperation doesn't justify making up rules as you go.
But it's just, the rules in place are a little questionable, how you trade something and don't get anything back.
And then you pull from outside.
So,
Hey.
Can't beat them, join them. I'm with it. There's no rules, you can't break them.
Oh, damn. D-Zam. If there are no rules, you can't break them. And you can tell Aaliyah is like, yeah, this came across as shady to her too.
That line right there is everything. If there are no rules, you can't break them. Candace Parker just called out the entire operation in the most politically correct way possible. She's basically saying this whole thing is a circus, but she's doing it with a smile and a joke so the AR5 fans don't come for her throat. Again, because they've already attacked her in the past for having the audacity to analyze Angel Reese's game objectively. And now she's raising legitimate questions about league operations, and predictably, some fans are losing their minds. But here's the thing, asking what are the rules isn't hate, it's journalism. It's accountability. And the fact that Candace can't even ask that question without backlash tells you everything about how toxic this environment has become.
The crazy part of the conversation is I never heard Angel mention neither of the two during any of her podcasts. Who cares? However, it seems Angel is mentioned during their broadcast. That tells you what you need to know. that they're talking about women's basketball news? You retard. Right here. Yeah, it means Angel wasn't playing basketball and now she is. Genius. Kid Swift off the top rope with the bionic elbow, with the people's elbow. Oh, my boy CDS. You sound retarded. You should delete this. I mean, I get it. I don't get it.
Let's talk about what actually happened here, because the timeline matters. The Rose made trades, multiple trades. They sent players to other teams. In any normal league structure, when you trade players away, you either get players back or you pull from your developmental pool to fill roster spots. That's how organized sports leagues work. But Unrivaled apparently decided those rules were more like suggestions. Instead, they announced Angel Reese was coming back, not coming up from the pool, not acquired through trade, just coming back, as if the entire system they'd established suddenly didn't apply. And the announcement was positioned as this huge win, the Defensive Player of the Year from Season 1, the rebounding leader returning to save the Rose. But nobody addressed the obvious question: how is this allowed?
What are we doing? Using Angel for clicks yet again. God. I mean, honestly, I don't get it. The truth is the ratings are in the gutter without Reese. Zero Twitter engagement, so they changing the rules to let Reese in. I actually do, to a point, agree with that. All right, do I think it's going to be a massive move in ratings or anything like that? No. I mean, I could see them gaining 10,000 viewers, maybe 12,000.
Now let's address the elephant in the room. Will Angel Reese actually move the needle for Unrivaled? Candace thinks she'll give the Rose a boost, and she's being generous there. The reality is probably more modest. Could they see a bump of 10,000 viewers? Maybe 12,000? Sure, that's possible. Angel has a dedicated fan base that follows her across platforms, but we're talking about a league that's currently pulling numbers so low they're embarrassing. Adding one player, even a popular one, isn't going to fundamentally change Unrivaled's trajectory. You know what would actually move the needle? Caitlin Clark. Get her in the league and you're looking at 1.5 million viewers immediately. A'ja Wilson would have a similar impact. But those players made a choice. They looked at Unrivaled and said, no thanks. They're resting, training, spending time with family, doing literally anything else. And that should tell you something about how the league's top talent views this whole operation.
She's saying this whole thing is shady as hell. Like, what kind of rules do we have going on? Y'all just changing all kinds of rules or making it up as you go to make sure you can get Angel back in the league. That's what she just said is trying to be as politically correct as possible, but even at the end, she was like, bleep it. If there are no rules, you can't break them. Yeah, I mean, it seems very fishy. Very suspicious. Like,
here's where it gets really messy. Michaela Thompson is sitting in that developmental pool right now. She's been frozen out by coaches before Bickertspire. Stephanie White notably underutilized her despite her being an absolute athletic freak, and now Unrivaled is doing the same thing. They've got talented players ready to go. Players who signed up specifically to be available for situations like this, and the league just bypassed all of them. Imagine being Michaela Thompson right now. You're in the developmental pool. You see the Rose need players after trades. You think this is your moment, and then the league announces they're bringing in someone from outside the system entirely. That's not just disappointing. That's a fundamental betrayal of the structure you agreed to participate in. And it sends a clear message: the rules apply to some people, but not to others.
Unrivaled just froze her out. Tell me what you think. Unrivaled. Desperation mode for ratings. You can't say they hit the red button like they just hit like a yellow button. I mean, Angel's not going to really blow the ratings up, but there'd be a little bleep on the radar for a game or two, and then it'd be back to straight trash, homie.
So let's synthesize what actually happened here, because this isn't complicated. Unrivaled is dying. The ratings are catastrophic. Social media engagement is non-existent. The league needed something, anything, to generate buzz and get people talking. So they bent their own rules, or maybe just ignored them entirely, to bring back Angel Reese. And look, from a pure business perspective, I understand the logic. When you're drowning, you grab whatever floats by. But here's the problem with that approach. You destroy credibility. You alienate the players who followed your rules. You create a two-tier system where some athletes get special treatment and others get left behind. Candace Parker is right to ask these questions. What is the developmental pool for, if you're not going to use it? What are the rules around trades, if teams can just give away players and get nothing back? How does roster construction work, if the league can just insert players from outside the system whenever they want? These aren't gotcha questions. These are fundamental operational questions that any legitimate sports league should be able to answer clearly. And the response from some corners of WNBA social media has been predictably absurd. People accusing Candace of using Angel for clicks, as if discussing actual WNBA news on a women's basketball podcast is somehow inappropriate. People saying Candace never mentions certain players, ignoring the obvious fact that she talks about players who are actively playing basketball. Angel wasn't in Unrivaled, so there was nothing to discuss. Now she is, so there is. That's how sports media works. The comment that really captured the insanity was someone saying Angel wasn't playing basketball, and now she is genius. Yeah, that's exactly the point. She wasn't in the league, she wasn't in the developmental pool, and somehow she's back anyway. That's the whole issue. That's why people are asking questions. The fact that some fans can't grasp why this looks suspicious is honestly baffling. Here's what this really reveals about Unrivaled's situation. The league is in panic mode. Not red button emergency yet, but definitely yellow alert. They're making desperate moves to generate any kind of momentum. And desperate organizations make bad decisions. They sacrifice long-term credibility for short-term attention. They undermine their own systems because they need a quick fix, and it rarely works out well. Will Angel Reese help the Rose? Probably a little bit. Will she save Unrivaled? Absolutely not. The league's problems are much deeper than one player can solve. They need the actual stars of the WNBA to buy in, and those stars have made it clear they're not interested. Caitlin Clark passed. A'ja Wilson passed. Sabrina Ionescu played last year but sat out this season. These are the players who actually move ratings, and they're all saying no. So Unrivaled is left scrambling, changing rules on the fly, hoping that bringing back Angel Reese creates enough buzz to matter. And maybe it will generate a small bump for a game or two. But then reality sets in. The product still isn't compelling enough. The stars still aren't there, and the ratings will slide right back to where they were. Straight trash, as the original commentator so eloquently put it. The bigger question is what this means for the league's future. If Unrivaled is willing to abandon its own rules this early in its existence, what other corners will they cut? What other desperate moves are coming? And how long can a league survive when it operates with this level of inconsistency and apparent favoritism? Candace Parker ended that segment with a joke: if there are no rules, you can't break them. But underneath that humor is a serious criticism. Sports leagues need structure. They need consistent rules that apply equally to everyone. They need credibility. And when you start making exceptions, when you start changing the rules midstream to benefit certain situations or certain players, you erode the foundation that makes competition meaningful. So yeah, Angel Reese is back in Unrivaled. The Rose got their player without following the established process, and the league got a small publicity boost from the announcement. But they also revealed something important about themselves. When push comes to shove, when the ratings are bad and the pressure is on, Unrivaled will abandon its own rules to chase relevance. And once you establish that precedent, it's really hard to put that genie back in the bottle. The question now is whether anyone will hold them accountable. Will other players demand explanations? Will the media keep pressing on how this was allowed? Or will everyone just shrug and move on because, as Candace said, there are no rules anyway? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Unrivaled was right to bring Angel Reese back outside the normal process, or does this set a dangerous precedent for how the league operates? And if you're Michaela Thompson right now, sitting in that developmental pool watching this unfold, how do you feel about the league that just bypassed you entirely? Let me know what you think, and make sure you're subscribed because this Unrivaled situation is only going to get messier from here.